Today I was working on the Fille, Cheveux de Ligne, the girl with the flaxen hair with a student, and she's only in her second week. She's done remarkably well. And what we've done thus far is emphasize a floating arm, subdividing the beat, very slow, elongated 3 and per measure subdivisions, trying to control the gorgeous thread of melody, which is very much floated across the piano without articulating so much. You really want to avoid grabbing notes and say, I got to get that note and so forth. It's just feeling kinds of washes of harmony, but the harmonic, the chordal feeling under your fingers is rolling through chords in melodies, then with non-harmonic tones running through these gorgeous harmonies. Usually I tell the student don't start with the pedal, but I'm going to advance a little to the next stage so that the pedal is there. But nonetheless, with the pedal even, your underlying flotations and rotations must permeate your practicing for this. It opens up with, is going through the minor 6-7 chord, which is E flat, G flat, B flat, D flat, which if you're thinking of the key of G flat major in which the piece is written, he's starting on the 6-7 chord, a very ethereal, beautiful chord. Right away, you're thinking of this going through this gorgeous sonority, but it's melodic because you can sing it. You can sing the broken chord, so it is very melodic at the same time. Because the pedal is down, it's harmonic. So you want both dimensions. Now let's go very slowly because 1 and 2 and a 3 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3. Here comes the 4 chord. 4 chord resound. Even that much takes a certain amount of finesse because it is piano. It's floating. You don't want to hear any notes poking out. It takes a certain amount of finesse. And when you get to the 4 chord there, he's got a plagal cadence. A plagal cadence is 4 chord to 1 chord. We hear it in churches. Amen. So you have to be really careful that you do go, oh, the 4 chords here. So that takes a certain amount of really attentive listening, and then float. Always float out of what comes before. Listen for the notes before as they decay. Now over here, he's going toward the dominant of G flat major. The dominant is the D flat F A flat chord. Actually, it's opening up a bit more because he just had the cadence which melted down from here. Melted down. 4 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and a little bit more. Teeth. So that's a phrase there. That's another phrase. Now, what's interesting here is to get the legato in this little section, which has a lot of chords, and on the top voice, you have a melody. So you're always thinking the top voice. You can always do things like this. That's always a good thing to thread through the top voice, because you know that is what should be coming out in terms of voicing the chords. However, you also want to get the legato. He has a legato mark over it. And the only way you can get even the illusion of legato is by certain fingers in the chord connecting individually to the next chord. Here's what I mean. Here's this first chord. Now what's going to happen is pedal's holding that chord down. So 3 is the connector pivot to 5-2-1. And then thumb is the pivot. Pedal's holding the upper voices for me to the 5-3-2 chord. And then 5-2 is the pivot to 3-1, and then this is 5 is the pivot to 3-2-1, and then the lower voice is held, 2 voice alto, and then you can do that. 5 is the pivot to 4-2-1, and then you have to lift here. In the left hand, you have 1-3. 3 is the pivot to 5-2-1. 1-2, or you could say 2, because you have to play another B flat, is the pivot to 1-3. And then 3 is the pivot to 1-2. And then 2 is the pivot to 1-4. And then 4 is the pivot to 5-2-1. And then you have to just lift and break that. So that's very important. The technique of creating legato where it's physically impossible if you got stuck in all the notes of the chords and tried to just stay there. You'd have to keep lifting your hand and you'd lose the thread of the upstairs voice. You want to get the legato wherever you can possibly do it, and by whatever means, using finger pivots to do that. So when you put it together, I'm going to go very slowly. So I'm sticking to my routine that I played. This I have to just break. And I always want to make sure that it is very horizontal. It's also good to go back always a little bit and then go forward, so you see where you came from and where you're going. When I said listen for decay, when you have a long note like coming out of this is decaying. 1, so this has to come out of the decay. This comes a little bit more. So you can see you're always singing, and I always sing over my practicing in the beginning. So that's like 2 phrases right there. And so you finished on this E flat major modulation to this other tonal center. And then he drops back down to P. I would listen for the decay, by the way, from the preceding, always. Now here, he's going back to the beginning, but he's doing a variation. So he's got harmony underneath now. I really shouldn't go faster, because you try to resist the temptation when you're teaching a student to start rates, going into a different tempo. So you tell the student, let's stay with the slow tempo. 1 and 2 and a 3 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 1 and a 3-5. 4, 3, 2, 1. Left hand takes over. 1, 2, 3-1. 3, 5. Melody E flat. I'm going slowly. Slow tempo. Bass. Trickle up. New phrase. Upper voice. 2-5. That's how you can get that legato, otherwise it'll be all gaspy. You have to jump here. No, you can't do anything about that. Resolves into resolution. So I'm going to go over some places with those finger switches that are so critical of playing this with this seamless legato and ethereally misty sound. I think it started here. 5 sliding down, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm just showing this voice right here going down. Right, but meanwhile you're going to have to hold a chord here as long as you can. Let's see, I came out of this 1, 3, in the left hand. 3-5. I go to 1, 5 in the left hand. See, I switched. Now I did a lot of finger switching. See how slow? It's important to go this slow, even slower than I did before. Float down to now 3, 4, 5 in a voice. 2, 4, 3-4, 2, 1, 3, 2-4, 2, 1, 3, 2. Now you just roll up that one pedal that keeps the notes down that you can't possibly hold. In the left hand you have parallel fourths. That really helps. They're parallel fourths. And together you have bass. He puts a little portato mark on that. Lean mark. New section, new phrase. 2-5. Left hand, bottom note goes to 2. So I can connect to the octave B flat. Pedal holds that down for me. Now this is tricky here because you got to hold some notes down. You can't assume that the pedal's just doing that for you. And let's examine this. We did this. We went to do -5. Slide in. 4, 3, lift your hands. 5. Now that left hand bottom note A flat goes to a 2, so I can connect to the B flat octave. Here I have to lift. I'm still holding the 3, 2, 1 in my right hand because that's what it says. And then what do we have here? And then we have to keep holding the E flat and the B flat because it looks like it's a dotted half note. So I'm still holding it. There's quite a lot of detail there of holding notes down. So I hope this gives a little capsulized summary of how slowly you have to really practice this. And of course separate hands make sense to see place chords. 4-3-4. And of course balance is important where you don't want that inner voice popping out on you. So really be careful with balancing of voices.